Hey everyone, Sarah here from The Average Tourist, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing an Old San Juan travel guide and take you along to show you everything that we did in only 24 hours in this beautiful city. But before I get started, if you're new to the channel, I'm Sarah and I have a passion for travel. I like to share tips, reviews, itineraries, and travel guides to help other travelers make the most of their vacations. I'd also love to connect with you on Instagram, so if you're not following me, you can head over to Instagram and follow @TheAverageTourist to stay up to date on my day-to-day tips and tricks when it comes to travel, and also to stay up to date on my future travels. Before the pandemic, I planned a 7-night Southern Caribbean cruise with Royal Caribbean that left from San Juan, Puerto Rico. I thought it would be a great idea to arrive a day early so that we could experience some of Old San Juan before getting on the cruise. The good news is, even with only 24 hours, we were able to see so much of the city. The bad news is, there's so much more to be seen, so you definitely do need a lot more time than 24 hours, but you can see a lot with a limited amount of time. So let's jump right into it, and I'm going to show you everything that we did in only 24 hours in Old San Juan. We started at the I Heart Puerto Rico sign. This is located by the Old San Juan cruise piers. It didn't take us long before we had the sign to ourselves, but if there were cruise ships in, it probably would have been too busy.
Here we are in front of the I Heart Puerto Rico sign, which I'm really bad at showing you. But we just arrived to Puerto Rico about an hour ago, checked into our hotel, and now we're going to see Old San Juan. And it's going to be great.
The next thing we saw was the San Juan cruise port. This port is said to be the largest and busiest cruise port in the Caribbean. Located on the southern shores of historic Old San Juan, this cruise terminal can accommodate 7 ships at once, but there's also a second cruise terminal, the Pan American Pier, about 5 kilometers away by car, that can hold 2 more cruise ships, so up to 9 cruise ships could be in port at the same time. You know, one day when we can cruise again. Next, we found an open-air market where vendors were selling food, crafts, artwork, jewelry, clothing items, and other trinkets. There was music playing, the area was nicely shaded from the sun, and we didn't feel pressured by any of the vendors as we were browsing, so it was a nice market experience. We were there on a Saturday, so I'm not sure if the vendors set up daily or only on weekends, but definitely something to check out. The next attraction was the Puerta de San Juan, which is the gate of Old San Juan. This historic gate was used to enter the walled city of Old San Juan and is the only remaining gate of the original 5. This gate faces the bay and was used to welcome dignitaries to the city. Next was the Paseo Del Morro, a scenic walking path which was once a maintenance road around the walled city. This path starts at the San Juan Gate and ends at the Castillo San Felipe del Morro and is part of the San Juan National Historic Site.
It's so hot and we're trying to get over to the fort way over there, and we still have a really long way to go. We definitely underestimated this walk, but it's pretty. I have no idea how hot it is, but it is really hot here. And we are surrounded by concrete right now, so I don't think that's making it much better. But we have found a whole bunch of wild kitties out here. We're trying to make some friends. And I can't take any of them home, which is really sad, but look there's a whole little kitty village right here.
We actually learned that this area was a cat sanctuary managed by Gato to address the booming cat population in the area. They set out food and water for the cats and trap them to spay or neuter and vaccinate them. And they even have an adoption program. As a cat lover, I spent a few minutes here trying to make some new friends. We continued on the path and there was absolutely no coverage. So if the sun is shining down like it was on the day we visited, make sure you bring plenty of water and sunscreen. And like I said, we definitely underestimated how long the walk would be, so make sure you also plan in advance. Another important thing to note is that while the majority of the path is accessible, there are numerous stairs and paths that are difficult to navigate when you get close to the end. If you or someone in your party has mobility issues, I wouldn't suggest this as an activity on your trip. The Castillo San Felipe del Morro, also known as El Morro, was the second fort built in Old San Juan. This fortress was built to prevent attacks on San Juan from the sea. You can pay admission to go into the fortress and look around, or simply enjoy the grounds of El Morro that are open to the public for free. We chose the second option. The walls of the fortress offer some great lookout points, but beware. When we visited, they all seemed to be popular spots for people to urinate due to the lack of public restrooms. There were lots of people walking on the walls and jumping over the gaps as we made our way around. From the grounds, you have great views of the Bastion de San Antonio and the Santa Maria Cemetary, and you can even see the colorful buildings in La Perla. So we ended up at the Fort of San Juan, which is this beautiful landscape here, and everyone is flying kites, and you can see some are way up high and some are on the ground, but it seems like a very popular thing to do in San Juan. The open field provided some great conditions for kite flying, which seems to be a popular pastime in San Juan. There were vendors selling kites to locals and tourists alike, so if you're looking for an activity to do, this might be something you'd be interested in. The next site we saw was the neighborhood of La Perla. It's located outside the walls of Old San Juan. It has been made famous by the music video Despacito, but the colorful buildings and vibrant neighborhood have been transforming and popular over the years. Still, this area does have a reputation for not being a great spot for tourists. We enjoyed the beautiful buildings from afar during the day and would suggest that you avoid the area at night, especially if you're alone. Just like any urban city, it's always good to put safety first.
So dinner was absolutely delicious. Someone here is still struggling to finish her final meal.
We made sure to try as much local food as we could in 24 hours. We went to Mojitos Restaurant for dinner and tried 2 variations of the mofongo, and it was amazing.
What is that? That's the plantain and pork, right? Is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah?
Pork.
Friggin'
It was delicious.
Friggin' delicious.
Next up was enjoying a local breakfast from a cafe in the Plaza de Armas historic town square.
How is it?
Really good.
What is it?
Mallorca, I think. It's icing sugar. It's a pastry with cheese.
And it's delicious?
Yeah, it tastes like more.
We got an early start to our day to continue sightseeing and started with some Mallorcas. These pastries were served warm and were sweetbreads covered in icing sugar and filled with cheese. And they were very tasty. Since it was already hot out only at 8 a.m., we opted for iced coffees, but the Puerto Rican coffee was very strong and flavorful, so it was a great start to our day. After breakfast, we spent a few hours sightseeing around Old San Juan. The colorful buildings, charming old streets, and detailed architecture make this city a photographer's delight. We also saw the Catedral De San Juan, one of the oldest buildings in Old San Juan, and the oldest cathedral in the United States. When we visited, we found Fortaleza Street covered with hanging umbrellas. In the past, they've also had Puerto Rican flags hanging and for special occasions used all one color umbrella. I've heard recently that the umbrellas have been taken down, but make sure you stop by just in case. And lastly, we spent some time at the Castillo San Cristobal. This fortress was built by the Spanish to defend the city of San Juan against land-based attacks. During the ages of the Spanish colony, this fortress used its 5 cisterns to store water for the city. In World War II, these cisterns were actually used as bomb shelters because they were so large. The walls of this fortress have some of the famous lookout points that offered vantage points for guardmen who were watching the seashore to protect the fort. We really enjoyed walking around and exploring this fort on our own and spent over an hour wandering around taking photos. Definitely an attraction to add to your itinerary if you're visiting Old San Juan. Well, there you have it. That's everything that we were able to fit into 24 hours in Old San Juan. I'd definitely like to go back in the future to experience more of this beautiful area, and I highly recommend booking at least a day in advance if you are going on the cruise, whenever cruising can continue. Nonetheless, it's definitely somewhere you need to add to your travel list, and I hope that these ideas can help you if you're planning your own trip to San Juan, Puerto Rico. If this guide was helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more travel videos coming soon.